Hello and welcome to a chess game of the young Magnus CARLSEN, and actually a very special one, because in this game Magnus CARLSEN beats his first Grandmaster opponent. So the first time in his career he beats a Grandmaster. So actually it's well known that CARLSEN became a Grandmaster at the age of 13 years and about 4 months, actually 5 months. So actually the first question is, how or at what age CARLSEN played this game. So how much before obtaining the title was this game was the first time that CARLSEN managed to beat the Grandmaster. So if you want to take your time, then you can stop the video here actually, even though there is no actual chessboard on. So quite surprisingly, I just found out before doing this video is that this game happened only about half a year before CARLSEN obtained the Grandmaster title. So at this point CARLSEN's rating is 2385, and in about a half a year he's going to cross the 2500 threshold and also collects all the 3 Grandmaster norms. And at this point he didn't even beat a single Grandmaster yet. Yeah, so let's go to the game now. So Magnus CARLSEN is with the white pieces in a Danish open tournament, actually a well-known one, the so-called Politiken Cup, and his opponent is Chris Ward, who is a very well-known chess author and a Grandmaster from England. So let's get started with the game. It's going to be an Nimzo Indian. So d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, so the bishop b4, and we have the Nimzo Indian. Now comes knight f3, b6, bishop g5, h6, bishop g4, and this is one of the main lines. Black plays g5 here. So we can see pawn structure, but he's going to now hop in with his knight and e4, and his knight threatens to take the bishop and also threatens to take the knight. So black is going to be able to take this bishop. So the point is basically that black weakened his king side, but at the same time he is going to grab the dark square bishop. So now comes queen c2, bishop b7, e3, bishop takes c3, b takes c3, knight takes g3. This is all very well known theory, even in 2003 where the game was played. And here it's still theory, but it's actually quite a nice move. So white plays the move f takes g3. Of course h takes g is a much more natural move, but the point behind f takes is that this f file is going to be open, and now that there is no g pawn g7 on g7, this f7 pawn can actually be quite easily weak. And here actually Chris Ward plays a somewhat questionable move. I mean, this is still played, so g4 is a move that's been played before and also after, but it's also quite committal. So now white goes with the knight to h4, and so actually this knight is at the moment is quite lifeless essentially. So there's no square it can go, but it can very much support a future kingside attack. So now comes queen g5, attacking this pawn, queen d2, knight c6, bishop d3, knight e7, castles. And here actually, in my opinion, black plays his first mistake. He makes the move f5. So more normal would be either passing something on the queen side, or maybe play the move h5, probably rotating the rook to the f file via h6 and f6, and try to exchange some pieces. So the problem with f5 is that now white was going to have, so castle f5, white is going to have now quite a clear plan. He can try to play the move e4, so white can try to make like rook f4 and then e4 or queen e2, and all of a sudden this f5 pawn is going to be a target, and this h4 knight is going to be finally alive. So now comes, so queen e2 would be a very natural move. That's maybe first or second suggestion of the computer, but the move that CARLSEN plays is also very natural. He plays the move a4. The idea is of course playing a5 and gaining some space, getting rid of this weak isolated a pawn, trying to probably create some weaknesses on the queen side. Now comes castles, a5. And actually here comes truly a mistake from the Grandmaster. Plays the move d5. It's actually not that very clear why it is a bad move. But so At the moment, it clearly blocks your own bishop, but the problem is that if you exchange this c4 pawn and d5 pawn, white will still have another c pawn to push, and it can still open the position. So now comes queen e2, king g7, rook e1. Carlsen's play is to take on d5 sooner or later, and then push c4, trying to get rid of this d5 pawn, and then bust open a position with e4, and essentially try to organize an attack against the g7 king. So now comes takes, knight d5. So at least the knight has now a nice outpost, but here I invite you to stop the video and try to figure out the best move for white. So really, if we stop for a second and try to evaluate the position, it's very clear that the black king is incredibly weak. These pawns are all well, way too far away, so all these squares around the king is actually weak. So all white has to do here is try to just open up the central files and just checkmate the white king. And he starts with a very nice move, e4. It seems like just bundling a lot of pawns, but it's actually not what's happening. So if you play on c3, queen c2, this is how the game went. And now if you take with the knight on e4, then white can take this pawn on e6. And now comes the problem of this f5 pawn, that now that the e6 pawn is eliminated, this f5 pawn is going to also be taken, and the knight arrives the party, and when this h4 knight is also joining the attack, then the game is eventually immediately over. So therefore, Chris Ward here, the Grandmaster, couldn't even take with the knight, he took with the bishop, but the problem is that after king takes c3, he just lost a piece. And the game actually ended quite quickly. Came rook e8, takes, bishop b5. So actually, if you haven't beaten a Grandmaster before in your life, you might be somewhat well nervous that it's finally your chance. But in this game, I mean, actually, I think the Carlsen had many good chances against Grandmasters before, and some of them he actually messed up. So I made already a video about one of his games, one of his first Grandmaster opponents, where he had a very good position, Carlsen had, and still Carlsen actually got checkmated in a few moves after having such a great position. But well, let's see how he converts here. So rook e7 came, bishop c6. His bishop is the best piece of your opponent, so it's a very good idea to eliminate. Takes, and also it weakens this pawn, so now the e6 pawn especially is hanging. Rook f6, queen c3. The point is, of course, to play some d5 and open up this diagonal. Rook f7, d5 check, queen f6. And here again, Carlsen plays a very good move. So obviously your upper piece, so whatever you play is going to be winning. But I invite you to stop the video and find the best move. So yeah, here of course, I mean, your upper piece, you can try trading, but the point is that this h4 knight is actually very far away from these pass pawns on the queen side. So you don't necessarily want to exchange everything, because then this knight might not be able to stop the pawns on the other side. And your opponent's king is still incredibly weak. You actually have you are a piece up, so you can just attack the king and going to be checkmate. So the best move here is just simply play queen e3. Now you are trying to take on e6 because there's not enough reinforcement of this. And if black takes on d5, then now you can play the move knight takes f5 check. Obviously this is a fork, so the black queen takes, but it's going to be a whole rook that black loses. And now we have a rook against the queen side pawns and not the h4 knight as before. So that's very obvious that white is going to be able to convert this. And yeah, some moves to d4, rook e4, c5. Don't forget your king in the endgame, and yeah, just a few moves. There's no chance of these pawns, so black just resigns after rook e8. The Grandmaster resigned. So this was the first game that Carlsen managed to win against the Grandmaster. As I mentioned it before, just 6 months later he was already a Grandmaster himself. So that's it about this game. I hope you enjoyed it. Otherwise, if you're interested in these games, then I made actually already a couple of games again about Carlsen. So as mentioned, I made a video about his game against his first Grandmaster opponent, but I also made a video about Carlsen's first ever chess game, rated classical chess game. So you can check those videos out. These are going to be appearing on the end screen, I think on the left. Yeah, otherwise see you in the next video.